original financial orders, that came in 2021. I don't know. We'll let her speak. Yeah, right. We can get it. It's out. Okay. Okay. I don't have access to it right now, so I don't know. Welcome, everybody. This is the City Council meeting for July 22nd. And we'll call the order. Roll call, please.
Leinbach,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. First order of business is an executive session for pending litigation, purchase, lease, or sale of property, and conference with an attorney for the public body concerning pending or imminent court action. There's a couple different things here going on that we need to discuss. So I need a motion to go into executive session for those reasons.
So moved.
Thank you.
I will second that motion.
Thank you on the second. And we'll call the roll, please.
Leinbach,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Thank you.
No.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it.
Do I need this?
Go ahead, Gabe.
Okay, council, we need a motion to come out of executive session, please.
I will make that motion.
Second?
Thank you. Call the roll.
Leinbach,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Thank you. Next order of business is the committee of the whole, and I'll turn that over to President Barrow.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. You've had a chance to look over the agenda. Are there any questions?
Yes.
No, you want to go?
Yeah, I actually would like to add something to the agenda.
Sure, thank you.
And this is a new ordinance, actually, 29-2024, which is going to add some grant capabilities for our residents in order to pay for some of the costs of fixing their properties, specifically on the city right-of-way. So if we could add that to agenda, I'll kind of explain that a little bit. I would
Thank you.
also like to ask council if they would waive the first and second reading, and then we'll push this off to the next meeting on August 22nd, so there's an opportunity to kind of digest what we're looking at. So I'm asking for a motion to add ordinance 29-2024, and that would be under new business 12A, I believe. Yes, 12A.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second to add it to the agenda. We'll call the roll, please.
Lineback,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes,
So just to explain this a little bit, council, if you'll
Sure, thank you.
entertain me just for a minute. We've been working on this the last week and a half, the city manager, administrator, and myself. And we've also had a couple of lengthy meetings with EPA, one on Friday, which was very productive. Actually, it was an hour and a half. We had another meeting today for an hour and a half with the EPA that also included the assistant executive director and one of their chief engineers, along with our district rep. Both meetings, very productive. I came away from both of those feeling very good about working with the EPA and what we have going on here. They currently have our proposal. They got it on Friday. It was actually due today. They got it on Friday. They are looking over it, and they completely understand exactly what we're proposing with the orders and findings that they have given us. So they will look at that, and they will kind of get back with us, and we'll banter back and forth about what's acceptable to them. And so the last week, we really had a serious discussion. I told the city administrator, I said, look, I said, we have to provide some sort of assistance to our folks. We have a situation in our city where we have to separate sanitary water from clean water in the ground. That is the best fix moving forward. That's the best fix for our waterways. That's the best fix for Lake Erie, is to fix the problem. And it resonates with people's properties over 90% of the source. That's where it's coming from. We need to fix it for the future of our city. That's what we have to do. For me, that's important in this position, that we align the city for a good future. So how can we provide some sort of monetary assistance to help with this? So we came up with this grant program. It actually comes out of our sewer funds, which is going to take money away from what the city is currently doing, relining our city streets. So money that we earmarked to really fix the major thoroughfares, which is an equal part of this. It's an equal section of it. And we still have to pursue that piece. But it will take the money out of that and offer it to our residents. And there's an AMI kind of qualifier to it. There's an asset qualifier to it. In other words, if you have the ability to, if you have a lot of properties and you have a home here and you have the ability to fix it, that's probably not something that would qualify. But there's a pretty good chunk of money available, especially for those that have to get a lot of their fix in the city right away. Cutting curbs, cutting streets, doing taps, those kind of things. To me, it looks like this grant money is going to pick up quite a big chunk of that. So those are people that have those kind of fixes. So if I could just kind of entertain Mr. Birch just for a minute to kind of quickly explain what the income qualifier is, how AMI works, and what those numbers kind of look like.
AMI is obviously many people.
Microphone.
I'm sorry. Many of the people in the audience already know this, but AMI refers to area median income. Maumee's area median income is about $79,000 per four-person family. Originally, when I looked at this about 8 weeks ago, we were thinking about 80% AMI, which is typically what you see in low mod income housing. But since we have a little bit higher AMI in our town than most communities, even Toledo, it didn't make sense. If you had a two-person family of two teachers, they would easily not qualify for this. We were trying to come up with a first tier of funding based on 250% of AMI, which is about $198,000 combined family income gross. What that did is also now allow you to do lining in the right-of-way up to $100 a lineal foot. That's less than 10 feet deep. And then if you're replacing with STR 35 pipe, if you were 10 feet deep, you would have 100 linear feet, you're $100 a linear foot, 120 for 10 to 15. And you'd be $130 a linear foot for exceeding 15 feet deep. It's really our intention not to have people digging that deep, that where they could line these sewers. The only time that would happen is if the sewer was displaced, and you'd have some minor fix to do there. On the lining side, and we went over to 60% AMI. So 60% AMI, if you make less than $47,000, we have a lot of seniors here that make less than that. The idea was that those numbers would be higher. So we will reimburse more money for people who are less than 60% AMI or less. So about $47,000. So those numbers are, when you start going up, it's about 20% higher numbers. And these are also calculated as if you were actually replacing a sanitary lead and you were doing 80 feet of right-of-way work. So we didn't say, oh, it's only 40 feet, it's 80 feet. So if you had 80 feet of right-of-way, you would be making back principally most of the cost of replacing it. If you have to dig the street and the curb, we would prefer nobody other than the city repair those curbs and the asphalt. So that will not be a cost to any homeowner to repair the street, other than the granular backfill and controlled backfill has to do to compact where they have to replace it. Also on top of that, there's times when the laterals will have to be, you can line most of them until you have a chimney type connection or you have something that isn't a proper connection. Some of these pipes are 80 to 100 years old. Some of them are clay vitrified. Some of them aren't in very good shape. So sometimes you can't line that pipe, at least at the tap. So there may have to be a T installed. There may have to be another type of tap installed. On top of the dollars, there would be, if you're shallow, it's $1,000 a foot. If you're 10, 15, it's 14. And if it's $2,000 per tap, if you're more than that. Even the city would have to hire a contractor that exceeded, once you got about 13 feet, we would not do that work ourselves. If you were at 60% AMI, those numbers go up to the total tap fee for somebody is 60% AMI would be $2,600. So the total grant amount, if you're at 60% AMI and the sewer were across the street and you were 10 to 15 feet deep, would be almost $15,000. So that's why this was set up the way it is. There are some qualifiers. Obviously, if you own 3 homes, because of the asset test, the same HUD would do, they would have an asset test. That you would probably not qualify. This also covers an investor who is selling to an owner-occupant, the eventual owner-occupant, they would qualify, even if they had an additional home. So we're trying to do that. We've got a lot of apartments being on the slate to be built here in town, including low income housing. There are 2 more projects, so we wanted to make sure that we're not necessarily converting single-family houses into multi-units.
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Does
you.
that take care of what you're?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And also just, I kind of had a statement to kind of explain this. Let me read it just to, I want to make sure everybody's clear. This initiative aims to improve the overall sanitary system because that is our ultimate goal, while providing financial support to residents in need of assistance with their sewer repairs located within the right-of-way. The purpose of the sanitary sewer grant is to assist qualifying residents by helping to cover the costs related to replacing or relining lateral connections to the city water mains in the city right-of-way that have improper lateral connections, laterals, which are just basically pipes running through your ground, made of material known to leak or consist of damaged or deteriorating material. So again, it's twofold, right? We want to prepare the city for the future, that we're actually fixing the problem and we're doing something that is going to have a lasting effect instead of just covering it up, and then also offering some assistance that can get that done. We have had a number of people that were selling homes that have come by this past week. Mr. Birch has almost dedicated his whole past week into going out and looking at their properties and kind of giving them advice. We've also had quite a few volunteer people that have come up and said, we just want to fix it. We know it's wrong. We want to fix it, and we want to do it right for our waterways. We want to do it right for clean water in Lake Erie. And we want to make sure that we're separate, so we're not feeding all that same water down the same pipe wall. So any other comments? Well, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Barrow. That's all I had. Thanks you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald, and thank you, Dr. Birch. Josh?
Yeah, thank you. Just one quick question. Is this retroactive to anyone who's already had the work done?
Yes.
Okay, and
Well, June 17th. Some people had it done 20 years ago.
Councilman Lineback?
Under the consent calendar, one of the items is about approving rule, giving the mayor as designee authority to approve rules adopted by the Civil Service Commission in relation to the fire division. I'm just kind of curious, what types of rules would those be? Since we wouldn't see if we're turning over all our, any oversight to the mayor as a designee to approve those. I'm just curious what the nature of those rules would be.
It's really just some of the designations of firefighter paramedics
Okay.
that they're going to be hiring, just to make sure they're included and who's included within those civil service rules as necessary for hiring. It's really just a hiring process to
Okay.
clean up some of the rules.
And if I may, it's just to help, the fire division obviously is resetting. They're redoing their whole manpower thing, and they're going to be hiring personnel, so it kind of relates to that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add that the city as a whole has exhausted researching, looking for loans, finding loans, grants, anything of that nature. Dr. Birch has done a pretty extensive job in looking out to see what's out there. And for private homeowners on your property, it's not there. So we're trying to do what we can to make that happen in a different realm of getting money to the homeowner. That was all. I take one more question.
Also,
here.
the fact that we are kind of taking money out of our relining project for the street, that is much easier to replace in the form of grants from the EPA. And believe me, as of Friday and all this afternoon, I was pounding that home with them about how we are absolutely in need, and so yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I thought you were asking me something. So anyway, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more questions or from Committee of the Whole? This concludes Committee of the Whole.
Are we still in executive session?
No.
No, we can't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that ordinance is added to new business under 12A. We will now move to citizen comments. Council rules basically have you stipulate that you want to come up and speak. Catherine Stark, if you would state your name and your address, if you would, please.
Catherine, I can't hear you.
I don't know if the mic's on. Speak closer.
No,
No, go ahead.
Stop.
Okay, what was just partially what I wanted to ask about was, I want to ask about that was ordinance that was so to answer that, most of our communities like government recently. Nobody, she has no control of that.
Can we give her one of our mics?
You want, here, do you want to borrow one of ours?
do those mics work there?
That's okay.
In all due respect for this young lady, please, a little decorum, okay? She's come up and she has an opinion that she'd like to give, and we want her to give it. Relax, relax.
Okay, originally I wanted to ask the council members who now see the stories of what implementing this emerging ordinance has done to innocent homeowners who had their lives completely disrupted with what appeared to be, at the time, kind of a last-ditch effort to appease the EPA to make a motion to put a moratorium on the ordinance until it could be reworked. I recall hearing at the information meeting last week, Tuesday, even that our administrator, Dr. Birch, had been shocked at some of the quotes that homeowners were receiving. And it's awful that some of the families, seniors, and longtime residents, what you just communicated helps address that. I'm not sure that everyone in the audience would feel that that is a workable solution for everybody. I shared a quote on social media today that sometimes mistakes are made, and in the Strong City, we received the Strong Award. I would hope that sometimes you admit that sometimes you make mistakes, smart enough to learn from them and strong enough to correct them. It sounds like perhaps you did reflect somewhat and looked for some additional funding. I hope that we can still revisit this ordinance and make it a little bit easier for all of our residents to deal with this ordinance. And I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Stark. Okay, we'll move to adoption of the agenda. Need a motion to approve the agenda as
They
amended.
got more.
I think there's a, what does the card say right there? You must fill out a card in order to speak? Yeah.
You got a pen there?
There you go.
I think we might be able to have the sound fixed for you. Okay, Mr. Cobb, thank you. And your address, please?
1149 Holgate, Maumee, Ohio, 43537.
Thank you. Welcome.
It's been 10 years since I've been here. Some of you know me, most of you probably don't. In 2013, I ran for city council. I'm a class of 2006. It's been that long, I almost forgot. And I ran for county recorder in 2020. I've owned my own pro wrestling company with 65 employees, and I understand business. You guys haven't been doing good business. You guys haven't been defending or protecting the people of Maumee, and each of you took an oath to do that. Moratorium needs to happen immediately for every property owner in this city. A ballot resolution is to follow. I don't want to come back here. I don't like coming here. Do what's right for the people of Maumee. There are seniors that will lose their homes. There are young couples that will foreclose. And there are small business owners that are just trying to make cash flow on Friday. You all have a great, big responsibility, and a few people here have been taking that lightly. I don't like running anybody's name in the mud through social media, and I don't like wasting my time on these issues. I ask that you fix this and save the citizens of Maumee their homes. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to adoption of the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted, or as amended.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will move to adopt the agenda as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Call the roll on the agenda.
Lineback,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Next is approval of meeting minutes. A motion to approve those minutes on June 10th and June 17th and July 2nd of 2024. I need a motion for that, please. Ms. Puffenberger?
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 10th, June 17th, June 25th, and July 2nd.
Okay. Mr. Noonan, please.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. Excuse me. I will second that motion.
Call the roll on the meeting minutes.
Lineback,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Next is petition and communications. We need a motion to accept petitions and communications and place on file.
Oh, thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'll make the motion to accept petitions and communications and place on file.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will second that motion.
Okay, before we call the roll on this, this has got to do with the approval of a facade grant to Dale's Bar and Grill. Any information on that, Mr. Burke?
Just want to give you an idea that this is roughly $39,000. We have a facade program grant. We've had about 4 people participate. Dale's Bar and Grill is replacing their windows, historically correct, and replacing some of the bad EFS material on the exterior.
Is it primarily for the uptown area?
Yes, it's all the uptown area.
Okay, the historical uptown area.
That's right.
Okay. Any other further comments from council on that? Okay, call the roll on the petition and communication.
Lineback,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
On the consent calendar, we'll entertain a motion and a second, and then we'll discuss these items. Mr. Barrow, please.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I move to approve all consent calendar items.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will second that motion.
Okay, as we move through these, recommendation from the city administrator, authorize the clerk to transfer a request for a liquor permit for MSJ Hospitality without requesting a hearing to the Ohio Department of Liquor Control. Anything further on that?
No, Mr.
Okay. B, I would like to change the amount as it's been forwarded to me from the chief. It's actually not the amount that's in that recommendation. It will be $166,250. $166,250 for the approval of the 10-year proposal for Axon Enterprises to replace all the tasers, body cameras, dash cams, video and recorder servers, and records management systems. So that's pretty much the whole ball of wax for the police division. Chief, anything further on that?
No, it's just our tasers are failing at a rapid rate, and we're kind of discontinuing what we've got. This program not only replaces them this year, but in 5 years it replaces them again. And then new cameras every 2.5 years, and also card cameras with a combined check. And the records management, I know even when you're CMIs and struggles, this will get us tight to that where
So on the capital budget side, these are typically projected and planned out in advance that we kind of know they're coming. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. Can I ask why the nice deduction in cost?
That's an
The deduction's based upon the way the schedule stuff is broken out and what we budgeted for. That's not what we budgeted for this year. That's implementation.
Okay.
So the letter was the one that we were gonna put on the
Thank you.
C is a recommendation from the law director. We discussed this, authorizing the mayor as a designee to approve rules adopted by the Civil Service Commission in relation to the fire division. That's the consent calendar. Anything further from council on that? Okay, call the roll on the consent calendar, please.
Lineback,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Under new, we have no other business. Under new business, 12A is ordinance 29-2024. We discussed this at length about the grant provisions in the conveyance and inspection code. Anything further from council on that? Yes, Mr. Barrow.
No, Mayor McDonald. So I'm going to make a motion.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead and make a motion.
I move to waive the first and second reading to waive the readings as to ordinance 29-2024, residential real property conveyance and inspection code for owner-occupied residential property with grant provisions.
Okay, and a second on that?
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will second that motion.
Call the roll.
Lineback,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Second motion for the ordinance, please. Mr. Barrow, second ordinance to pass the ordinance.
No, we're not going to pass it, just the first, that's just waiving the first and second reading.
Thank you for that clarification. I gotcha. Okay, no old business. We'll move to mayor, council, and administrative comments. I would like to make note that we have passed the hurdle of resetting the fire division and made some progress in writing what those positions look like, paramedic, firefighter, and hope to move to putting that out for hire very soon. Also, the sheets on the Anthony Wayne Trail there at Sidecut Crossing is under construction. What I understand is they're going to also build the second one when they're completed with this first one out on Dussel Drive, along with that new subdivision that's going in out there. We do know Chick-fil-A is committed to that, and actually the owner of Chick-fil-A has been a local resident and an employee from the ground up at Chick-fil-A, and she wants to meet with me and tell me her story towards success in owning a Chick-fil-A here. So I will meet with her in the next coming weeks and listen to what her story is. Also, the Anthony Wayne Trail is finishing up. We should see some conclusion to that pretty soon. I would like to say that I'm already noticing people riding their bikes and walking and jogging along that path. And it was even before it was even done. So there was people that were actually waiting to use that. Detroit Avenue is starting to begin. They're starting to do some surveillance out there, and that will come quickly as we move into the fall. I also like to read a note that I have from a business owner here about our emergency services and the response that we gave to them. On Tuesday, June 18th, 2 of our employees at Wood Spring Suites were not feeling well, and on-site personnel made the decision to call for an ambulance. In response to the call for an ambulance, the fire department and the police department responded. Police Chief Josh Sproul reached out to the corporate team to be sure that we were aware of the situation and what was going on. We want to thank Chief Sproul and all his responders who attended to our staff's needs in ensuring the safety of our guests and staff. We are grateful to be part of a great community that has great services. So thank you, Chief, for that. Appreciate you guys. With all that being said, I will move to Mr. Leinbach.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. First thing I'd want to mention is that the ordinance that we just read that has a second reading, so that'll be voted on in the August regular meeting. I encourage everyone, get a copy of that as soon as it's available. Please read it, digest it, talk to us. We need your feedback on it, okay? And then just a couple of prepared remarks. But I expect that most of the people in this room and many others outside this room would like to wake up tomorrow and see that the problem of sanitary sewer overflows in Maumee has gone away. Unfortunately, that will not happen. They exist. We've had a problem that we must address. Most of the people with whom I've had conversations, and all of which have been very civil, that's a testimony to our citizens in the city, they accept the goal that the EPA director's orders, contained in this ordinance, which is to eliminate sanitary sewer overflows. Now, these people that I'm talking about, and many of you in this room, understand that problem and want to make sure Maumee eliminates sanitary sewer overflows. Reference the letter that the mayor read. Some of the people they want to do it, do the right thing. The controversy, in my perspective, centers on how best to do that, how to achieve that goal. I suggest here a couple steps that could move our community toward that end. Number one, we need to have more forums like last Tuesday that was in here where city council can listen to you and understand the ramifications and unintended consequences of the ordinance, where new creative solution ideas can be explored and where extended conversations can take place. I'm hopeful that such a forum involving a series of small-scale meetings, like in this room, this number of people, to be manageable, could be scheduled starting within the next couple of weeks. I intend to work with the president of council to see how we can do so using committee of the whole in the near future. Number two, and this is my last item, is that we need to consider how to limit the financial impact on property owners by focusing primarily on the most significant contributors to the problem. Now, the engineering studies concluded that we must limit the amount of clear water that enters the sanitary sewer system through what's called inflow and infiltration, or I&I. I&I is talked about as if it's one thing, but it isn't. It's two separate issues. Inflow comes from clear water connections to the sanitary sewer. Things like sump pumps or downspouts are just main line right into our sanitary sewer. These are illicit connections. They need to be disconnected. Now, some documentation that I've read indicates that wastewater volumes can more than triple during major storm events due to inflow. Now, that's a big number. Now, if 100% of the illicit connections were eliminated in our city, I asked the question, would that be good enough to achieve the objective of eliminating sanitary sewer overflows? It might be. Well, what about infiltration? That second item. So that's, cracks, leaks, gaps in laterals. The ordinance that's in existence right now states that the sewer inspection shall address, and I quote from the ordinance, that the sewer piping on such property from building or on the property to the sanitary sewer is in good condition and reasonably free from infiltration. Okay, that's the wording in the ordinance. I would assume from that wording that some or many clay pipe laterals could meet this definition and therefore be left alone. Automatically replacing or lining clay pipe laterals just may not be a cost-effective remedy. I think we need to consider where we can achieve substantial reductions. They must happen. They must happen while minimizing the costs to remedy. And it seems obvious that we need to concentrate on eliminating the inflow sources. Again, those are illicit connections. They are already illegal. And I think this topic requires further discussion and perhaps can be addressed in the kind of meetings I mentioned. But these, are, I want to say there are other concerns to be sure. And I think, again, the new ordinance that we had read tonight, introduced tonight with the grant provisions is a step in that right direction. But I believe these two specific actions require some serious consideration going forward. And I hope we can talk about that.
Thank you. Mr. Noonan. Mr. Noonan?
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. It's very rare, but I agree with Councilmember Leinbach. So
make it less rare.
I know. The past 8 days has been a lot to me internally. We've been getting emails, calls, text messages, Facebook messages, what have you, about this ordinances we passed. And, to me, it's kind of it's been a snowball effect. And, I thought that putting out the forum on Tuesday would alleviate, a lot of those concerns. And I think to a certain degree it did, but I think it also created another variety of issues that have blown up from social media and what have you, where it's very hard when you have 8 people trying to convey facts and logic and what have you to a lot of people online that generate things that don't even exist. I mean, the key one that really irritates me to this day was, the intent of this ordinance was, through analyzing these connections through people that are selling their properties, right? And somehow, some way, it led into where like everybody thought that we were going to knock at everybody's door. And I guess I want everybody to realize that we're trying to do all these things. We're trying to self-report. We're trying to fix this issue. But also, we're not the Gestapo. We're trying to do everything we can not to do that. And I'm not saying it's going to. I'm not. And I'm not saying the concerns aren't justified. I'm not. I would never going to be approached with a $50,000 bill to correct something, whether it's a roof, sewer, what have you. So I'm not saying those concerns aren't justified. And so, I've been thinking about this for 8 days, and it led into a possibility of how can we how can we provide some kind of breathing room in order to hear what you have to say, but also continue what we have to do because we were elected to do a job, right? And I do think, based on the fact that we have a first and second reading here, or we're waiving it, excuse me, we're giving everybody the opportunity to look at this ordinance. This is a new ordinance. Get everybody to look at it, see what we can come up with as far as trying to lessen that financial burden. And we have, 5 weeks for everybody to look at it and what have you. And I agree with Councilmember Lineback, whether it's real or not, that I do think we need to do some sort of community forum again to outline what exactly this ordinance will detail with the financial assistance. And the other thing is, and I'm sorry if I'm taking too much of time, the other thing is please note that we are not going to stop looking for other funding mechanisms. Okay, we're, I saw on Facebook that we're so lazy that we're not going to do anything. It's really frustrating to hear that because based on today, I had a meeting with other people that wanted to talk about the ERU, and it created this whole monstrosity of a situation, which I'm not saying it's not, again, I'm not saying that the concerns are justified, and I'm not going to apologize for meeting with those people because, they wanted to provide a potential solution in which we could explore. Okay, I'm willing to listen to anything and everything. So I guess I just wanted to throw it out there that, I'd like to see how this ordinance comes to fruition or, comes to play in the next 5 weeks. And I look forward to hearing everybody's thoughts on that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Noonan. Ms. Puffenberger.
Thank you. So my goal with this is to address the problems that came to be realized from the research and data we've been collecting the past 3 years. Unfortunately, that data is pointing to residential homes being a big part of a main part of our infiltration into the sanitary sewer, and which is causing it to overrun in rain events and causing us to dump in the river. So in some way, shape, or form, we have to fix those because we should not be putting sewer into the river. Now, with that being said, with what we put out today and what we will continue to be doing is talking to anyone and everyone about and looking into many different ways on how to help residents with that fix. But it doesn't take away the fact that that's where the problem is. That's what the data is showing.
Ms. Puffenberger has the floor. Thank you. There will be decorum, please.
And that data is with the EPA and will be reported as soon as they say it can be. That was submitted on Friday, like Mayor McDonald and I think Mr. Birch said as well. So the goal is still to continue looking for funding. If you have ideas on that, please let us know. But we've learned about a lot of information, financial impacts to the city, looked at many different scenarios. So not only are we thinking about the financial impact, we're also thinking about a fix to the problem, not a really expensive Band-Aid. So, I mean, those are our goals. Once again, I'm willing to have conversations with people as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Barrow.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. A lot of good points, and I'm glad there's more information that you're getting. Funding, though, is really at the crux of the issue. Everybody we talk to, everybody, including myself, I'm going to be subject to the pain to fix things. That's the crux. Who's going to pay for it? I can't afford it. We don't have the money. And we didn't have an answer. For the last several weeks, this has been looked at, and how can we do it? And it can't give money to people on their personal properties, their private properties. It'd be like, we can't fix the roof in your house. We can't fix the pipes in your ground. So Council recognized this, and we have continuously spoken in conversation with our administration, our council, our mayor, and the members. The comments or the remarks, answers that we got was, have the city pay for it. We didn't do it. We moved into this house. How did we know it? Why didn't you tell us? In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, that was allowed. The federal government, it's not just Maumee, folks. It's the entire country is built like what we're built like. It is, they're piped the same, and we'll worry about it later, was the thought, or they didn't think about it back then. They didn't think about the environment. So when people say the city pay for it, you're the city, we're the city. We're caring for Maumee. Someone says we're not caring for Maumee, we're not taking care of the residents. Excuse me, we're doing something that should have been 40 years ago that people in our sewer division kicked the can down the road and lied to the EPA. We're the people holding the bag, and we're the ones taking the beating, which is fine. That's the job. But we're taking the beating, and that's what we signed on to do, to fix it. If we put a moratorium on it, we haven't fixed a thing. We're kicking it down the road for another solving issue that you're not going to have, or rather an answer. We had a meeting, I had a 7 a.m. meeting this morning with a sewer contractor, and a resident and friend says, oh, you got to meet this person, and we did. He's very well known. He's a sewer expert. I didn't say expert, but he's a big company that has been doing this for years and years and years. And the suggestion we got is the same suggestion that we've been hearing for years since this began, the last 3 or 4 years. Build large holding tanks. The county has them, Toledo has them, cities that have plants have them. Build a large holding tank, and that'll take care of your overflow. Those are hundreds of millions of dollars. Sorry, they're 25 to 50, $75 million depending on what size you need. And in today's volume, what we would need, the size of our water tower that holds 2 million gallons, I think we would need somewhere in the realm of 25 of those. 10. But what that does, that simply holds the problem. Then we pay the county to process it. We didn't do anything except we didn't fix the problem, like Councilman Leinbach said and Councilman Noonan said. We have to, and Councilman Marco Puffenberger said, we have to lessen the inflow, the volume, and storing it and tanking it, isn't it? We may still have to do that down the road, but we want to lessen what we're doing as we're fixing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fiskus.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I certainly understand why everyone's upset. We're all upset too. We got stuck in the crosshairs of this for something that happened years ago, and that's not us passing the buck. We're going to deal with it. Most of us, when we were voted in, we were told, hey, it's not too late to not do this. Like, there's going to be a lot of hard decisions you're going to have to make, and no one's going to think any less if you don't do it. But we want to help fix the problem. I'm not going to be just another councilman like we used to have here that didn't fix the problem and just let somebody else, oh, they'll deal with it then. We've got to fix this now. We don't have any other choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. I'm going to kind of switch to something a little bit more positive. First of all, since our last official meeting, we had the 4th of July and the 3rd of July celebration kickoff. I think it went very well. And I think only one incident that I'm aware of, only because it happened like right in front of my wife. But I want to commend their police officers and everyone that was there. Mr. Barrow, you did a great job cooking for all of our service members, and no one got sick, so that's good. And if everyone remembers, I was not present at our last official meeting or regular scheduled meeting. That was because I was in the hospital with my wife. We had our second baby, Charlie. Thank you. Charlie Olivia Harris. She was born at 2:44 in the morning, and she was 7 pounds, a half ounce, and 20 inches long. So she has a very long arm, so I think she's going to be a volleyball player sometime down the road. But I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to not be here, and especially during that rough meeting I think we had there. So thank you.
Mr. Kirk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the
Microphone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Grab it close to you there.
There we go. How's that?
Yes.
There was a comment earlier about we're not taking that we're taking this too lightly. I could speak only for myself and for a few others whom I've talked to about this thing, we're not taking this lightly. And if you paid attention to what Mr. Fiskus was just saying, he's not taking it lightly. He's very serious about this, very concerned about this. We're all very concerned about this. The problem is we're stuck between your needs and mine and thank you. I feel like Patrick, haven't I? We're stuck between your needs and the requirements that are being mandated by EPA. We can't ignore the EPA any more than we can ignore the IRS or the federal court system. We can't. We have to comply somehow with that. And we have to do it in a way that is acceptable, or at least understood by the citizens, by the people in Maumee who are affected. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do that. Now, speaking of the EPA and the EPA report, I think, was your name Stork or Stark? You spoke, thank you. Your microphone was going in and out. Not your fault, it's my fault for not speaking close enough to it. You wanted ask something to do about the EPA report or our response to the EPA? I didn't hear what you said. Okay. Okay, so the administration sent in a progress report to the EPA sometime last week.
Correct. I think we can answer that. Mr. Birch can answer that next if it's helpful. He can answer that next if it's helpful.
With that, I'm finished. I just wanted to clarify what you had said, Catherine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kurt. Appreciate it. And Mr. Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think what Catherine was asking is the SSES report that has relied on this data. It is the final report of a 3.5-year process that was required as part of a director's findings and orders. We had flow meters in, 31 flow meters in around town. They're still in, and we move them around to determine where water comes from in different rain events. Obviously, we know that it's unlikely that we'll be able to reduce any overflow in the future. I don't think anybody, the county, Toledo, Napoleon, Defiance, Perrysburg, nobody's going to be able to eliminate it completely, especially all their I&I. What Stantec recommended in that report is that we be held to a 10-year control event or a 10-year storm event, which is pretty typical. But it does not eliminate. That means after a 10-year event, which means that event should happen in about 10 years. We've had 2 of them, by the way, this year. That you would, if you exceeded that, you would be discharging to the river in some way. What we can't do is pump. We also, as part of that project, was to determine and ask the EPA to allow us not to exceed a 25% reduction in inflow and infiltration. Another component of that is that we would build in 3 locations, we would build underground storage tanks starting in about 6 years. The determination, because these are fluid, that when we decide when those tanks get sized, at least the first tank, we have to be able to determine how much I&I we've been able to remove from the system so we could determine the size of the tanks. We should always strive to remove point source infiltration, right? So to the extent we do not, we will be sending that to the county plant at Fallen Timbers to be treated. That's expensive. The county has done a good job of taking what we were able to give them, plus all the other communities around here. They've done some upgrades that we pay about 16.3% of when they do it. But we're trying very diligently to reduce the amount we store. Because as I said in the last meeting, it's unfortunate, and I don't mean to be crass, but when you dump sewage for free in the river, and it's not free, there's always an offsetting opportunity cost here, but when we dump that, it's free. If we hold it and send it to the county, we will be charged for that. That is a forever charge, as long as we're on this earth, that we will pay in your rates. So I think what the council is trying to do as part of our proposal through Stantec and to the state EPA is to try to eliminate point source contact. Other than the last 3 years, we've gotten a lot of big parking lots out of our system to make sure that we're reducing the long-term cost. The last thing I think council wants to do is over the next 5 years, double the rate again, because now we're holding so much water that we're now, instead of discharging it to the river, we're sending it to the county to be treated. And I can tell you, I'm quite sure the county doesn't want to take on extra flow either. I mean, they've got issues too in size and capacity, just like every community. So obviously those are the main components of the plan. It is work product right now because we submitted it. We had a little difficulty because of the 360 problem we had. We had a difficulty getting into them, but they'll be doing the review. We talked to the EPA today, and that review should be forthcoming. Typically, you'll see a couple of months review. They have engineers still reviewing the data that was and synthesize that data so that we know where we're headed. I'm sure they'll come back with some comments. It is our hope that they accept what we're asking. We probably hoped for a little more than we thought we would get, which is a 20-year event, or over 20 years to do this work. We figured we were going to end up with 15, which would be more expensive to cram that in a certain area. The public outcry has actually probably helped us some in terms of what the EPA is willing to allow Maumee to do to fix this problem. Originally, we came in, reported ourselves, and asked for 30 years because we knew we were looking at a $150 million problem, and that was not received well by the state attorney generals that were in the room and by the EPA. So I don't know many people except for I think Fort Wayne just got 25 years to correct on a very large project. But if we can get 20 years, 10-year event, and reduce I&I 25%, which is a massive amount, we'll be probably in pretty good shape. But it doesn't mean that we will never discharge. Just want to make it clear.
Thank you. Just one final comment. I saw Mr. Gerken was here earlier. We did discuss, we had a phone call this morning, kind of discussed our situation. He did not offer anything to us that we had not already considered. We have engineers too in our own department. So I appreciate the professional courtesy that he is willing to offer. That is certainly welcomed. And I hope we have more discussions in the future. So we'll make a motion for adjournment. Mr.
Move to close, to adjourn.
Yes. Second, call the roll, please.
Lineback,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Puffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kirk.
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you.